black skin needs 3 to 6 times more sunlight to produce the same amount of vitamin D than lighter skin, right? Just so you can kind of get an idea of like, oh, I'm out in the sun a lot. I'm out in the sun a lot. Are you out 3 to 6 times more than your non-melanated contingent? You're probably not. All right, so now this conversation is definitely one that is near and dear to me, especially as a healthcare provider. And I always say, like, not only am I a physician, but I'm a patient as well, too. So when I just recently got my yearly annual labs done, right, which, I get around my birthday every year. I've already talked about this, which I suggest you do, right? That's how you remember, hey, when should I get my checkup? Get it around your birthday. One of the labs they did the prior year was like my vitamin D level. And here I am. I'm in sunny South Florida. And I'm thinking to myself, like, oh, yeah, sure, go ahead and check my vitamin D. I don't got no issues, but like, yeah, I want to check it. And I was genuinely shocked that my vitamin D was low, right? Because all my other labs are great, but like my vitamin D was low. And I was like, oh, wow, vitamin D. And they were actually like, oh, well, do you go out in the sun a lot? Of course, as a physician, I'm usually in hospitals. I'm usually in buildings, so I don't have a lot of direct exposure to the sun when I'm out, unless I'm going to and from my car to go to the next destination. But even during my leisure, because I had to think about this, even during my leisure time, I'm like, yeah, you know what? I really do kind of be avoiding the sun like that. So of course I go to do my little Googling, my perplexity and like all that good stuff. And come to find out, especially as Black American, right, a lot of us are vitamin D deficient, right? Like in fact, the numbers were approximately 80% Black Americans are vitamin D deficient and have no symptoms whatsoever, no obvious symptoms whatsoever until they appear, right? So today I want to talk about the importance of one, making sure your vitamin D level is on point, especially as black American, black woman, black man, like hey, like we got to be checking our vitamin D levels, right? It's one of those things where the symptoms can be kind of sneaky if we're not checking for it, or if we're just kind of ignoring it. And understand that, like, again, when I think about why it's so important, how it affects our body, and how do we run around with so many of us being deficient. Again, I had questions, and hopefully today you got answers, right? So again, today we're gonna kind of break down vitamin D deficiency in the Black community and what we can do about it. All right, so what's really happening in our community that, a diagnosis like vitamin D deficiency is hitting 4 out of 5 of us, right? Like what's really happening? And it's a combination, like most things. It's not just a black and white one size fits all type answer. It's that combination that seems to get a lot of us in trouble. So first and foremost, our skin color. Like you may be thinking, oh my God, what is my skin color done to me now? Yes, our skin color. What happens because of our skin color, because of the melanin in our skin color, we actually produce less vitamin D when we are exposed to the sunlight. So even those who may be exposed to the sunlight, because of our melanated skin, we don't produce the level of vitamin D that our non-melanated folks in this country produce when they're exposed to the same amount of sun, right? So that's first and foremost, right? Like the normal way most people get, again, this is just like, natural, right? Because I know people are all about the natural. The natural way people typically get it out in the sun, out and about, we don't get it that way because our skin is a protective barrier against the sun and its rays, but unfortunately, it also causes us to produce a little bit less vitamin D from it, right? So that's one. And of course, lifestyle, diet, access adds up to this, where you get 80% of us being affected, but it is, again, an issue that I think is important to note, important to understand, important to talk about, especially as we continue to move forward along this path of getting better, right? And one of those things, right? Again, and that's why I wanted to talk about vitamin D today, right? Because I think it is one of those things where obviously, we talk about make sure your blood pressure is on point, your cholesterol, and getting your eyes checked and your vaccine. Like we talk about all these things here, but we don't want to let go of what may be considered small things, right? Because again, this is important. Again, remember, it's not me. Journal Clinical Endocrinology says 4 out of 5 of us adults are walking around vitamin D deficient. But what does that mean? Like, how do I feel if that occurs, especially in the over a long period of time? You ever feel tired for really no obvious, clear reason? You ever deal with infections, especially recurrent infections, recurrent urine infections, skin infections, over and over and over again for no very obvious reasons? Fatigue, like maybe you're just always tired. You're just more like you got a good night rest. You know it's not sleep apnea, and you're still tired when you wake up. Or you're still tired throughout the day doing your normal activity. And then just the bony aches and pain, right? So there's a lot of different, and that may sound vague, but when we talk about vitamin D and how much it does in our body, it's not surprising that it affects a lot of different systems, which gives us a lot of vague kind of a vague window of issues or concerns that could be concerning us. So understand, yes, you can be even one of those sun warriors, right, and still get vitamin D deficient specifically just because of your skin, just because of your skin. Like that can be the thing. But right, again, diet, you're not eating enough, you're not taking in enough, right? Lifestyle changes, you're not sleeping enough. All of these things kind of play a factor in whether your body's going to produce the vitamin D it needs to be sufficient, so that when you do go get your annual checkup and they check that vitamin D level, they don't hit you with the, hey, I want to talk to you. Like your vitamin D is a little bit low, and you're not shocked or surprised by it. So before I get into some, insights and some solutions associated with vitamin D deficiency, let's go into the missteps that kind of get us in trouble and get us not even thinking about, hey, I might have a vitamin D problem. One being, this is a good myth, right? And I just kind of mentioned this: being outside guarantees enough vitamin D. We already know that is not the case. We already know there's certain parts of the country that get less sun, more sun, and the fact that even if you get more sun, like I'm in Florida, if you're black, you're not going to produce as much strictly off the skin. Not even talking about dietary habits, just strictly off the way our melanin is produced. We are going to produce less vitamin D in the system in general. Ignoring the symptoms, whether you're tired, you're fatigued, you got general body aches and pain, and not thinking that vitamin D may be a concern. A lot of us, I can tell you what happens. A lot of us start thinking about vitamin D when we start getting very, very old, because we know that that's associated with fractures, right? So they'll check your vitamin D level, they check your calcium level, they'll start thinking about osteoporosis. That's when we start thinking about vitamin D. But imagine if we could have thought about vitamin D 10, 15, 20 years down the line, that routine fall that you had maybe wouldn't have resulted in a fracture for grandma or granddad when that came around, right? So again, just to think about where this show, right, is all about the prevention, right? So we're doing things now that may not be as sexy now, but it will pay immense dividends later on. So understand that. And then mega dosing supplements without guidance is okay. No, that is never okay. Again, more is not better, especially because vitamin D is actually a fat soluble vitamin. Dr. Pierre may be saying, hey, what does that mean, fat soluble vitamin? We have fat soluble vitamins and supplements. We have water soluble vitamins and supplements. And that just means, how does our body break down this, substance, right? Whether it's broken down and absorbed and metabolized and excreted out, or like via urine, that's our water soluble vitamins, or your body actually has to break this thing down or store it somewhere, which is our fat soluble vitamins, right? So vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. So if right, you take so much vitamin D because you're trying to overshoot the thing, guess what? Yes, you can have vitamin D toxicity with GI issues and stuff like nausea, a lot of problems, right? So you do not want to take too much vitamin D. And I can tell you, I've had patients who they're on the supplements where you're supposed to take it once a week medication, and I gave him 4 pills, right? Because for the month. And for some reason, he didn't think about it, and he took it for the first 4 days and was calling me like, "Hey doc, like I don't have any more of that vitamin D." I was like, "What do you mean? Like the month just started." He's like, "Oh yeah, I took it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I was gone." I said, "No, no, no, no. You're supposed to take it every Monday or every Tuesday or every no. You're supposed to take it once a week." So now, thankfully, again, he was all right. Any aches and pains was very short lived, but like again, that can be an issue. Yes, you can have some problems if you take too much. So that is a myth. We want to make sure we get rid of and get that out of there, right? Because again, that is a big mistake that people make when they're thinking about like vitamin D and immune boosting and fall prevention and trying to reduce osteoporosis. That's always a problem at hand, that they think if I just take too much of it, I'm out of the woods. and that's usually not the case. All right, so let's talk about some strategies that we can look forward to, especially when we're thinking about vitamin D and our fight against vitamin D deficiency. Number one, get tested. Like, you're not going to know if you're vitamin D deficient unless you know if you're vitamin D deficient. That may make sense, but I don't want y'all, because vitamin D is over the counter, just start taking vitamin D tomorrow. No. See if you need it first, right? Get checked, follow up with some blood work. Vitamin D isn't like a routine lab that your doctors typically will order on your annual, so you may have to request that, hey, can you check my vitamin D level? I just saw Dr. Pierre talk about it. I'm Black. I know my skin protects me from the sun rays, but it also may protect me from producing enough vitamin D. So I just want to check that level out. So make sure you're getting tested, because we don't want to check for it. Sun smart exposure. This is a good one. I didn't know, right? Black skin needs 3 to 6 times more sunlight to make the same vitamin D as lighter skin. Let me repeat that. Black skin needs 3 to 6 times more sunlight to produce the same amount of vitamin D than lighter skin, right? Just so you can kind of get an idea of like, oh, I'm out in the sun a lot. I'm out in the sun a lot. Are you out 3 to 6 times more than your non-melanated contingent? You're probably not. Eat vitamin D rich foods, right? This obviously makes sense. Salmon, mackerel, milk, egg, mushrooms. Again, diet alone isn't going to solve it, but it will help, right? It is a good part of it, right? So make sure you're eating foods that are good, and vitamin D supplementation, very important, and obviously the supplements when you can. And then more importantly, supplement safety. This is where, getting a healthcare provider, a nutritionist, someone to kind of make sure that they've got you on the right track. Again, most adults need about 800 to about 2,000 IUs a day. Those are the units that vitamin D comes in. Just like your ibuprofen comes in milligrams, vitamin D comes in IUs. Most adults need about 800 to 2,000 IUs daily. Talk to your doctor. I can't tell you which one will be good for you, but talk to your doctor to make sure they get you right from that standpoint there, because I think it's extremely, extremely important. And again, remember, if any of these tips help you, hit that like button, hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, and all that good stuff, because we love to support what we got going on here for you, right? So common myths, again, we talked about, I never get sick, so I'm fine. False, doesn't matter. You can have vitamin D issues. You can have these issues that reappear. And bone loss is like a chronic thing that you typically don't get back, right? So we want to be ahead of the bone loss instead of trying to play catch up to the bone loss, because a lot of times you can't catch up to it. More is better when it comes to vitamin D supplements. No. Again, take your daily recommended use. Don't overshoot it, because you can have problems from that standpoint. And I love this one. Supplements are just for kids or elders. Again, false. Anytime you start thinking like, oh, I'm like, it's only for, like, when I think about vaccines, people think, oh, it's only for the kids or the young the young kids or the old grandparents, and I'm in the middle, so I don't need it. False again. Yes, you can. Again, I take vitamin D supplements once a week, right? So it's extremely important to make sure you are doing that the same, right? That's the goal. Is we don't want to be a part of that 80% who's walking around vitamin D deficient, right? That's wild, right? 80%, right? It's kind of crazy number when you think about it. So let's wrap up. Let's get up out of here. Remember, understand that there are various reasons why the Black community seems to suffer from vitamin D deficiency. A lot of it is just that, hey, we're not producing enough. And majority of it is just we're not producing enough because our skin protects us from doing so. Like nothing you can really do about that. Our skin protects us from doing so. And to even try to balance it, you'd have to stand out there 3 to 6 times more than your lighter counterpart. No, we're not going to do that. Or at least I don't recommend it. Understand that, yes, there are simple ways to get it. There's foods, there's supplements. Just make sure that the first thing you do is make sure you fall in that 80%, right? I don't want you to just go out and get a supplement because you can reach over the counter at your local pharmacy. Make sure you actually need it before you actually start taking it. Especially if you're older, because we don't want all these, because I got some older patients. They used to, like, they'd have their prescribed medications, and then they'd have a slew of medication that they took, like almost like ad nauseum, right? Like their supplement bag was almost as many medications as it was for the non-supplement bag, right? So again, we want to help you avoid that as we continue to move forward and, continue to help educate our community on getting better, doing better, feeling better, in that regard, right? So again, if you got anything today, right, if you've been dealing with any vitamin D issues, you take vitamin supplements, there's some vitamin supplements you may recommend. I have a link of vitamin D. It's just supplements in general. In I think on my webpage, but I'll put a link in the show notes for my supplements, so you get you some good vitamin D supplements with my Amazon link, and make sure you subscribe to the show. Again, I'm going to see you guys next week. I'm yours truly, Dr. Barry Pierre, host of Medicine Mondays.